My guest today is a strategic provocateur, and he helps leaders escape incremental thinking and to aim higher. This man works with founders, exec teams, and helps them to challenge all those assumptions we just sit on and we don't think about. He helps them to rethink the constraints and unlock bold decisions in their professional lives. He's a sought-after speaker on moonshot thinking, and also on behavioral biases, which for salespeople, as we know, drives everything. He's very well known for turning complex psychology into simple, practical shifts that change outcomes. An expert in learned helplessness, so he's hopefully going to help me, and we're dealing with risk aversion. Welcome to Leadership This Sells. This is a podcast about what leadership and sales looks like when conditions are not ideal. I talk to founders, CEOs, and operators who've had to make those decisions when time was short, pressure was real, and the obvious stuff didn't work. We're not here for frameworks. We're not here for slogans. We're here to try and actually understand what creates momentum and, conversely, what quietly destroys it. So if you're responsible for results and not just ideas, you are in the very, very right place. Felix Riley, thank you very much indeed for joining.
Oh, a pleasure. I'll take that introduction. Can we end now? I think we're peaked.
We're done. We're good. We're good. There we go. Thank you very much. And good night. No. Right. So most of the boys who are going to be listening to this, and of course we need to be talking to one person at a time. So the person I'm thinking I'm talking to is somebody who is relatively grown up and is probably in some way, shape or form responsible for commercial results. Okay. And in order to get a commercial result, you have to persuade somebody to part with money. So, dear Mr. or Mrs. X, can I have your cash? I can solve this problem for you. Now, they're not going to do that for many, many reasons. If only they would just turn around and say, Paul, of course, because it's you, have 200 grand and come and solve my random enterprise problem. Okay. Why are they not just going to hand over their eddies? What are the things holding them back? What are they looking at and not seeing in me? What are they seeing in me? What am I doing wrong? What are the biases that are infecting this relationship I'm trying to expand and develop here in your experience?
I think it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we know, you know better than me, that when you're looking to solve a problem in any sale, you're looking to solve a problem. And when we lose sight of that, or when we fail to do that, when we could have solved that problem, when we should have been the solution, I think it's cognitive biases, mainly in us, but also in them as well. You've got to work on yourself first, sort yourself out, and then you really have got the head start you're looking for. And in my experience of working with businesses, I would say the three most common I see are confirmation bias, learned helplessness, and risk aversion. And if I go through those three, confirmation bias is where we have a view, and what we want is information that backs that view up, and we actually don't want to listen to anything that contradicts that. Interestingly, by the way, social media is weaponized confirmation bias.
Yes, with bells on. Yeah,
which is very sad. It's very sad, but it shows you how easy we are to manipulate.
Yeah.
Incredible. It's incredible. Fun fact, by the way, if anyone's got time in their hands, and I'm afraid in many ways we all have, if you get adverts on your social media, if you don't subscribe, social media companies, the video before the advert sets up your mindset. Sets up, so it might have a violent mob smashing up a street, cut to home security advert. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and that is purely its confirmation bias. It's confirming I do feel scared. I am scared of this world, So we're surrounded by it. So confirmation bias is it's if I happen to be let me think, a Green supporter, then every time I see anything where a banker gets a big bonus, you go, oh, they bloody knew it. See, this is why I'm a Green supporter. And then when a banker gives a fantastic donation to a school, it goes, well, yeah, but I bet most of the time he's on his yacht. You can. I'm being unkind to Green supporters, but for an example, but you do, and that because you've got confirmation, and I'm afraid the whole political spectrum thinks that way. So I'm not saying out Green. We're all guilty of it. And then and learned helplessness is, I actually think is almost my working assumption of how most companies and organizations operate, which is where you suffer so many setbacks in your life. You hear the word no, you have failed initiatives, you go to sell something for the 100th time, the last 99 didn't buy it, and you just lose heart. and you settle for good enough is good enough. And you just kind of grind it out. And you go into companies where you go, why is there sort of a hum of despair here? And that's learned helplessness. Where, because no one, who starts a company with a low ambition? Who goes into a role with a low ambition? Everyone starts out with massive dreams. But actually, when the rubber hits the road, when we hit reality, obviously we get some stuffing knocked out of us. And the real entrepreneurs, the really tigerish salespeople, just push through it and go, oh, that's all right. It's all right. Set your face to the storm. Go, keep going. But a lot of people, quite naturally, understandably, just give up. They decide that's reality. So that's learned helplessness. And then the third one, I think, is a massive challenge. Going back to your commercial director, why is he going to buy? This is, I think, the single biggest thing you're dealing with, say, especially people, anyone who's got to do with the money decisions on their side, is risk aversion. And risk aversion is exactly as it sounds, an aversion to risk, but it's much deeper than that. Because and if you understand this, you can really start to have better conversations with your customers. So risk aversion is based on the fact, because all the research backs this up, is based on the fact that we feel a loss much more than we feel that the pain of a loss much more than the happiness of the equivalent gain. So if you or I walk down the street and we lose £1,000 because we happen to be carrying £1,000, that's gonna, and we get home and go, oh, I've lost the money. Oh God, you feel terrible. The acuteness of that pain is way more than being in the park and finding £1,000.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of pleasure from that, but they've done all the tests, and we really feel pain, the equivalent pain, much worse. Now, put someone in a psychological situation where they're looking to spend money on the company's behalf, and their default is, I'm scared of losing. I feel the pain of losing. So they're not thinking that consciously, but subconsciously they are. And what happens is, and I talk about this in my talk, The Flea Jar, because to me it's core. It's core to what we're dealing with cognitive biases. People want deterministic outcomes in a probabilistic world.
Okay, break that down.
Yeah. Well, because that's how we work our minds. We want to do something and get a definite result.
Yeah.
And outside of maths and physics, everything's probabilistic.
Yeah.
But people kind of don't accept that, I mean, my daughter studies astrophysics at university. She's got my brains, but none of my humility. And if she phoned me up and said, Dad, I just ran an experiment and we had a non-deterministic outcome, I'd start breathing into a brown paper bag, because I really like maths and physics following the laws of nature. Everything else is probabilistic. But what you do is, so you're sitting there with an FD, and these are the conversations that are happening on their side. And they'll say, look, I want to buy Paul's product. If we spend 200 grand on that, I think we can make $1 million next year. And the FD sucks air through their teeth and say, right, if you spend £200,000 on it, you've definitely lost £200,000. And you might get $1 million. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about the definitely lost £200,000 bit. And that's the bit we have to challenge. We have to get people out of that zone where they are stuck on the absolute, because that's we have to make them comfortable with the reality that life is probabilistic. That nothing comes with guarantees. But if I can't stop COVID, I can't stop Trump invading Greenland and whatever that will do to the world. I can't do that. But those force majeure aside, actually, if you accept that this is a great product, it solves your problem. We've got a great track record, we've got a great relationship. It's in line with what your goals are. Tell me about a solution. Tell me about I think you have to call out people's concerns. That's what I when I'm negotiating with people, in good faith, because my product might be wrong, but in good faith, if where we're not having a full conversation, where the person's hedging, and not opening up, I know I've almost already lost. Until I can get them to say, look, I'm not going to use the information against you. What's your concerns? What's your problems?
Yeah.
And what they'll do is they'll talk in cognitive biases, which is, I'm worried about losing the money. I'm worried it won't work. Risk aversion. What if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? All those are risk aversions. So we have to lean into it and say, well, think, what? Let's go through and let's look at all the scenarios where this won't work, so that you put it on the table. So and then you're scaring the ghosts away by getting people to talk about, because they'll say, well, this might, and you go, that's incredibly unlikely. Has that ever happened before? No. But you think it might happen on this occasion? Well, not really. Okay, good. So can we put that one to bed, right? Yeah. And but they might have a really good concern, and you have to deal with that, But I think where and they're never going to frame it as as cognitive biases, but where their concerns aren't aired, I think there's a problem. I think there's okay, I've got a ways to go here. But if everything is aired in that conversation, and therefore you've addressed all their fears and all their, and all their upsides, I think you've got a really good chance. And for me, that's how I try to negotiate, and not just sales, in life. If you're sort of, if you're sort of shadow wrestling with someone, whether it's on a personal life or in a commercial situation, you leave very unsatisfied because you think, well, I didn't get to the bottom of that, and I haven't got a handle on it. But where everything's aired, then, as I said, they're not going to say, I've got risk aversion, loss, and learned helplessness. But you'll listen and you'll go, oh, I know what that is. Oh, I know what that is. Oh, but that's okay. I mean, we all suffer from that. I get that as well. But, Yeah. So that's why cognitive biases are very powerful to me.
Just on the discovery thing there, when that's what it is, it's discovery. It's my favorite question in the whole thing is, and what else? So you've listed something. Okay, that's good. And you just get the big long list and work through it one at a time. But right at the very end, when you think you're done, you say, and what else? You're still trying to pull and pull and pull. And it's interesting, you think about this both from a relationship, a human relationship, or a societal or a cultural position. And you have high functioning societies and low functioning societies. You have strong relationships and weak relationships. You have the things that succeed and the things that fail. And if you have the kind lies, does my bum look big in this? Well, no, it's fine. It's huge. It's elephantine. Versus the harsh truths. If you have the painful truths, rather, a succession of painful truths will lead you to a peak, a pinnacle, clarity, understanding, drive, whereas kind lies will decline and take you down to a pit from whence you have to escape by telling the truth and reaching that peak. So whether you either go up or you go down, and if you're not clear about something, you're going further and further into the pit of opacity, of misunderstanding, and you're missing the opportunity to get to the truth. The truth
will set us free.
It is. As they say. I mean, sunlight, the best disinfectant, all that good stuff.
Well, and the problem is if you don't get it all on the table, as you say, to the what else, which is a great question to end on, because, well, not end on it. We both know what else can often open up a much bigger conversation where you go, I'm glad I asked that, but that's the salesperson's job, is to surface this stuff. I mean, you've got, push and pull salespeople, and push people obviously have a success rate and they can drive, but they're not really interested in the what else a lot of the time. They're in like, do you want to sign the document? But actually, the pull salesman wants that trust of like, look, just tell me it all. Come on, just get it all on the table. And if it comes to a point where I say I'm the wrong product, I'm going to tell you, because I don't want, to make money just today. I want to make money for the next 10 years with you. So I'm much more interested in that. And of course, and the minute you say that you're addressing another fear, another risk aversion based fear. Fear is not, 90% of our decisions are fear based.
Oh yeah. There are only two emotions. There's love and there's fear.
Yeah.
Everything else is a shade.
I've just got fear. So,
I'm full of love, darling.
but the thing is, but that's a really good, way to think of it, which is that, this person's objections, if you think of them as fear-based, not obviously, we both know we're not talking about terror. We're just talking about don't run across a busy road. That's fear-based. But so fear is very sensible as well. But if you can sort of say, what are they worried about? What are they scared of? And is it, and you can talk to them, and this from what else conversations where they might say, the FD's, just running right at the moment, just looking for anyone to crucify. If anyone here makes a bad decision, and you go, right, that is holding you back. That's an extra layer of risk aversion, And I think when you surface it all, and you will get to points where where the conversation goes is nowhere near where it started, and you might realize, look, you guys shouldn't be buying this. You've got, this is a desperate roll of the dice. And I don't want, I'd much rather work with you in a as a consultancy way and come back and sell you my stuff next year when you're ready, sort of thing, whatever it is. And I think the people will always respond to that honesty, and you'll never, I've had more business from people who I've turned away, sort of saying we shouldn't do this right now, but I'd love to bloody work with you. You know, when you're ready. I've had more from them from the push people I've tried to push through,
Yep.
because and when you look back and go, why did I do that? You know, I wasn't thinking about them at that point. I was thinking about me. You know, and you get to a point in life where you go, you've got to walk away. It's okay. There's so many people you can sell to out there. If you've got a product you can only sell to the UK government, which I've got a client who can only sell to the UK government. I mean, that's ballsy. That is tough, but he's doing it. But it's one of those rare, unique products. Most people can sell to lots of people. So so walking away is the cred you'll get, the kudos you'll get.
Yeah, the trust.
Yeah.
The
It's everything.
trust. And it moves them from the fear end of the scale onto the love end of the scale. It moves them because you are endeavoring to serve them in the best possible way and not serve yourself. The minute you start looking at your own navel, you disappear up your own backside, frankly.
Well, and on the question of trust, you know, there's being brutal about it. There's only really two things that separate two products. You know, one is price and one is differentiation. You know, how is it different? But if you throw trust in the mix, I like doing it with Paul because I can trust him. And if Paul says I should do this, you know, okay, our company might have some other issues, but he means it, and I can trust him. You know, and that's worth its weight in gold. You know, there was a story of the most successful car salesman in America was a guy who would, again, walk away from deals, tell people, look, we haven't got the right car for you, but there's a lot down the road where they do sell it. And the boss said, what are you doing? He says, I'm not trying to sell them this car. I want to sell them their next car and the one after that and the one after that, you know. And he's the most successful car salesperson in America because playing that long game, Goldman Sachs, long-term greedy. And you can tell clients don't mind that. I said to my client, I'm long-term greedy, which is why I'm not going to do this deal with you. Because I want you to love every deal, you know, and I want you to look at me and say, we always make money together, you know, and so I don't want to be involved in the deals where it's skinny because you go, you know, it's gonna leave a bad smell. You know?
You'd be scraping away at something. You'd be scratch and sniff, trying to get the little last essence out of this.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, the thing we touched upon it, one of the earlier bits there was the confirmation thing and the learned helplessness where people just drift through. But you've also got doing nothing, and doing nothing is safer. You know, I don't want to spend the money because I'm averse to the risk. And frankly, in my situation, why do you think that doing nothing feels like this safe option for people, even when all their logic says you have to do the change, you have to make these changes?
I think because going back into my idiom, if you like, my rule that people want deterministic outcomes in a probabilistic world, they get to say, well, I definitely didn't do that, and I didn't do that, and I didn't do, and they give you all the reasons for not doing stuff. And I've been in too many meetings, and I mean countless meetings, where typically the FD-ish figure sounds the cleverest because they're giving you all these reasons why we've saved money by not doing that and saved money by not doing that. And there comes points where I say, listen, we're entrepreneurs, we're business people. We've got to take risks. Business is by its very nature risky. Otherwise, you're going to get a job with the government, you know? Very important, by the way, not knocking the government in any way. But, you know, you do. I mean, there's, you know, a lot of people get jobs with civil servants because they like the surety. They like the security. And you say, you know, why are you in business if you won't take a risk? And and there's no question this. I mean, all the data shows that companies who take the most risks are the most successful. So Google, IBM, Apple, Amazon, they fail the most. That's an absolute fact. They fail them. They are constantly releasing new initiatives, new products that fail left, right, and centre. But they know that's the price of progress. And when you've got companies that say everything must succeed, you go, oh, good luck. Just show me the other company that's done that, the really successful company where they've never failed. You know, nothing goes up in a straight line. And when you get this this mentality, it's always status quo mentality, where people fear change and they get used to, they just believe it if we just keep doing the same thing, even though the world's changing around you, you know, that will somehow be a winning solution. It's very dangerous when people get, you know, those people get a grip on the company. You know, but again, a lot of it's reframing. You know, if someone says let's just keep doing what we've always done, you could say, okay, yeah, well, you could do that. That's fine, but you can reframe it and say that's fine. You're doing that because you're working on the basis that if everything's the same and I do the same, I'll get the same outcome. And the person will say, yeah, absolutely. You go, right, okay. Do you realize nothing's the same? Do you realize the economy has revolved and evolved? So you're literally not where you were. Let me take you back to when you started it. You know, what was the economy like? What were you doing? Why is it successful? And when they start airing that, they'll realize, oh, I'm talking about a different world, a different time. You are.
And you are not the same,
Yeah, well, that's it.
right?
That's it.
You've gone, it's 5 years
No man
later.
steps into the same river, you know?
Yes, man never steps in the same river twice. It's
Yeah.
different man, different river.
Yeah, that's it.
Different
That's
man,
it.
different river. And that's the thing. That's the thing that I think is, it's one of those fairly subtle but blindingly obvious things you pick up as you get older, is that I'm not the same man. I'm
Yeah.
slightly achier and slightly older, but by golly gumboats, do I know a lot more stuff,
Yeah.
things not to do, right?
Yeah.
What
But I
questions
think as we get
asked?
older,
Yeah.
another kind of, I don't even think it's a risk aversion. I think we look at a battle. When you're young, you just think, I mean, I look back at the hours I used to work when when I did my first companies. Oh God, how would I do that now? You know, I was sleeping under the desk in my
Yeah.
first company, you know?
It was so
And
exciting. So
well, it is, it's so
exciting.
exciting. And you've got this boundless energy and you've
Yeah.
got people around you who are up for the battle. And then you get older and you go, and I know this time and time again, you know, from friends and colleagues and clients where they just haven't got the stomach. Like, oh, and you go,
Yeah.
we'll get someone else there. It's
Yeah.
okay, you know, step back. But and what happens is again because when people have objections, it's incredibly rare. It happens occasionally. It's incredibly rare they tell you the truth about the objection
Oh no, never.
when it reflects a
No.
flaw. When it reflects a flaw. So when someone's thinking, I can't be bothered, they'll go, oh, you know,
Not the right time.
yeah, yeah, that's it. It's the wrong time, the wrong part of the financial year. The staff are overwhelmed at the moment. And you said, what's the truth? They go, I can't be bothered. I just can't be bothered. Yeah, oh, okay. But it's a good idea. Yeah, it is. But you can't be bothered. You know. And what happens is, when I used to run my companies, I used to say my problems were 90% personnel and 10% personnel, because it, the psychology, especially the group psychology, overwhelms the best intentions, overwhelms the machine. And that's why when you have an inspiring boss that makes everyone want to just get out there and really do it, that's great, because actually suddenly everyone points in the same direction. They know their purpose. They know their goal. They get on with it. You know, they trust each other. Boom, you've got a company at that point. But the amount of times a key decision maker, and you know this, you're dealing with a gatekeeper who are going, you're not qualified to, keep this gate. You're a shocking person. And you think, I can't go above you. But you are, you're in love with that other company because of a relationship, not because of their product. And you go, well, I'm stuffed now. You know, I mean, God, how many times have we all met that in our lives? You know,
Yeah.
and you.
Can you give me a quote, because I need to compare it to my cousin's company that
Yes,
we're going to
that's
use.
it. Yeah, yeah.
But
And
would you
or
mind
they-
spending 3 months filling this out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got but again, this is how irrational the markets are. There are tens of thousands of companies that are lopsided in their outputs and outcomes because they're maintaining relationships with people because of favoritism, or just or laziness, or or just, as you say, is my cousin or whatever. And you go, well, that's fine, but that's not going to get you to the sunny uplands, because you're holding yourself back. And again, those are cognitive biases. It might be people pleasing. It might be, confirmation bias, that, this fella's always been right. And if he's saying it, I agree with it. And you go, well, that's not really how it works. No one's right all the time. So, I think but I'm always wanting to know, who am I dealing with the other side of the table? And the big question in my mind, actually, at the back of every conversation is, what do you want? What do you want? What do you really want? It's a funny thing so I've written novels and screenplays, as you do, and there's a really interesting thing with characters, which everyone, even if you're not a writer, you kind of get it, and you go, oh, I've always thought that, but I've never really articulated it. Where a really great film, Fast and Furious, it's got the depth of a puddle, fine, but it's fun, whatever. But you get a really great movie like When Harry Met Sally, and you go, right, what does Harry want? And it's like, oh, he wants to sleep with every female friend. He wants the gene. He doesn't think it can be done, or he wants Sally. And you go, right, fine. So he wants Sally, fine. And everyone would agree on that. Yeah, right. He wants Sally. He spends most of the film chasing. You go, what does he really want? And you go, oh, he wants to believe in love. He actually wants to believe. He's cynical. He says, oh, love. He really wants to believe in love. And at the end, that amazing emotional scene at the New Year's Eve party, he believes in love. He finally believes in love. And and it's a beautiful scene. But the reason it speaks to us is we get that, but we don't live our lives that way. So when you're dealing with a business person, you say, well, what do you want? And they're like, well, we want a new CRM system, that will, just revolutionize things, and really, just take so much of the pain out of the comms and the emailing, blah, blah, blah. Fine. Okay, right. But what you really want to say is, what do you really want? What do you really want? And they'll say, I've missed my targets for 3 years in a row. I just want to hit my targets. That's what they really want. That's what and if you can get to that, gosh, you're having a conversation. My Lord, you're having a conversation. And then you can say, well, okay, what can I do to help you? Or no, I'm the wrong person, but I really want to work with you. But I'm going to put you in touch with someone who can fix that. And when you can speak to what someone really wants, my God, you've got a relationship. Then and that's the trust there. Where you can't exploit it. Got to be in good faith and all these things. But where someone, and it doesn't have to be a personal thing. It might actually be a confessional thing about the company. I've had this recently where I'm giving a talk, and they would say, yeah, we want the talk to be this, and I felt something was wrong. And I said, so what's going on with the company? Oh, we've missed these numbers, but it's going to be, we think it's going to be okay next quarter. And I said, what's really going on? They said, they're screaming at us from head office in America, screaming at us, And I said, right, so we want the talk to somehow deal with that, how to navigate that, and how to come out the other. And it wasn't until I got to that part of the conversation that I could give, and I thought, because I'm going to give you a talk you don't want. And you're saying you want this, and I could see it. You know that thing in sales where they're saying, I want this, and you think, that's not what you want. And I can't put my phone, somehow we're not getting there. So I tried to get to the, what do you really want? What do you really want? And then you can deal with someone. Sometimes I say, I just want to be out of this job. And you go, okay, well, if you want to be out of this job, well,
I can help you.
Painlessly gets you out the job, it's fine, but I really want to know what they want, then you got a relationship, and even if and there's layers, one might be a sort of personal thing. I just want to, buy my wife a new car, and that means a bonus. Fine. Or it might be, I just want to, this company it just isn't taking off. And for 3 years, we've just been going sideways. I want to get lift off again, and you go, oh, well, okay, well, that's a bigger conversation. So this is your tool to getting that, because anything you're doing is a tool to their bigger goal, So if you know their bigger goal, well, then you're having a conversation, aren't you?
So, and I think when you're doing it on an individual level, I mean, I come into organizations, and one of the things is after investment, that's the first place. The people start to drift. They've had a chunk of investment come through, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we can do 27 different things. Optionality comes on the table, confusion, all that sort of stuff. And you've got lots of people, and mostly investors are buying the team. They're buying the individuals working together and all that jazz. And while the focus is on the strategy and what we're trying to sell and to whom and things, one of the things you need to do is retain the team. And one of the conversations you have with the top high performers is, what do you actually want? What do you really want? And what do you want for your next job? Okay, what do you want for your next job? It's not just how can I help you improve, learn, do stuff today, but when you grow up, what do you want to do next? And if you can make sure that whenever you're talking to them every couple of weeks, you're talking about both what we're doing now and what you're going to get, how you're going to get that next thing, that real thing that you really, really want, whether it's go off and go in the Mars program or, learn Spanish guitar. You can talk to both just like the same way you're saying there, when you really understand what somebody really wants. So
that's interesting as well, isn't it? Because when you talk to someone, what do you want next? You smoke out their time frame.
Yeah.
Because the disaster. I mean, it's funny. I was talking to an incubator lady the other day, and I said, "What's the biggest challenge? What makes them fall apart most?" She goes, "Oh, just the relationships. The people, personnel. And it's and again, you've got, because what happens is some people can go 7 years. When people, I mean, the amount of times you've had this as well, when people will come to you and say, I want to start this company, I'm going to sell it in 24, 36 months tops, and you go,
no, you're not.
Are you? Have you read Odysseus? Have you? Oh, I love the metaphor of Odysseus, because he went off on a short boat journey.
Yeah.
And it ended up taking 7 years.
Yeah.
And that is running a company. You sit there and you go, it's I'm going to do this and we'll exit in 3 years. And you go, if you can't assume it's going to be 7 years, don't do it. I always say that to people, look, you've got to assume 7 years, because that's 7 to 10 years is the norm. And by the way, statistically, it's very, very tough. So if you're working with the wrong time frame, I already know you won't make it. And again, but that's going back to, what do you really want? And so, like you say, what do you want here, but what do you want in the future? Because now I know. If I knit those two things together, I get you. Yeah.
And the the time frame thing, the journey thing, it's if you are mismatched with the journey ahead of you, you don't have the mental packing. You haven't packed your bag the right way. You don't have the goods for the journey.
I
If
know,
you
and the thing is, and I feel for people because the novelty of the beginning, where everything is new and everything is the first time you're doing it, which is incredibly exciting but rather daunting, is so different to 2 or 3 years in when you are just trying to refine stuff or one more push or try to raise more money, because you missed your targets. It's and they are very different people who can do that.
yeah,
Very, very different people. It's and I think a lot of people, well, this, so many people start with the wrong team members where, because you're mates or whatever, you think that's going to be enough. You go, are you really going to be there in the tough times? And again, honest conversation, we've drifted off the thing. But I think when people are starting out, I think the most valuable thing is bottoming each other out. What's a real? If someone said we should get some psychometric testing or something, I think that's a great idea. Come in and check to see what sort of people you're going to be when the rain comes down. Because it's very, very different to that day one, isn't it? I mean, that said, on the upside, I think one of the exciting things about entrepreneurs is that often these are where the new ideas come from, isn't it? So they have got this fresh take on the world, So, but have they got the endurance? It's just that it's a marathon, not a sprint thing, isn't it?
totally is. Totally is. Do you have a final word for us? Bring your wisdom to a peak.
Zivia. It's the last word in the English dictionary. And whenever I used to row with my PA, and one of us just wanted to shut the other one up and say Zivia because it's the last word. I think. Let me think. Take risks. If you're young, I think people. It's funny. I gave a talk about failure and using it as rocket fuel the other day, and it's sort of on my mind that someone sort of said, what advice would you give us? What did you mess up? What risks? What failures have you got? And I said I should have taken more risks. Definitely should have taken more risks because the consequences of most risks aren't that great. And luck favors the brave. It does favor the brave. When I've been conservative, and Lord knows I've done it enough in my life, I've always looked at myself. I'm just in disbelief. Like, why'd you do that? Why don't you just go for it? And
we drift by default, right?
Yeah.
It's the opposite of the learned. It is the definition of learned helplessness. It's like, well, it's all right. I'm getting paid. I can just mumble along, and you mumble along, and then you die.
Yeah.
Because the journey is the destination. Like the entrepreneur, the journey is the destination. It's not, I'm going to build this and sell it. Mate, if you do that, you're 1 in a million or 1 in whatever the statistics is.
No, it's
Okay?
shocking.
But you've got to build for the journey. You've got to build yourself, your psyche, your team, your product, your organization for the journey, assuming that it might take you the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. And I think you've said a really good thing there. I think when someone comes to you with a business idea, I think it's worth saying to them, would you do this for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Is it that good? And are you that committed to it? And if they go about 3 years, you go, well, I'm scared now. I'm scared, And it is, and I think, and even though you don't really want to be with it for the rest of your life, if you haven't got that strength, because it's so big to start a company, and it's easy, but it's also, these people don't luck out, and so they can't force their way through the laws of nature. The people who win, there's a lot of luck. I mean, everyone, you have to accept that, and you go, fine, dust myself off, get up, do it again. I've learned, I'm old, I know more this time than last time, and all that sort of stuff. And good investors will know that. No, that's all right. I saw the Trump invaded Greenland, everything went to hell, and that changed everything. But I think I think luck favors the brave, and I think I've kicked myself when I don't advocate recklessness. I advocate restlessness. Just be restless.
There's your billboard.
There you go.
Be restless.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I think restless and curious. Same thing, really. Stay curious.
That's it. You know what? Let's take that. I'm going to take that as a final word, Felix Riley. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.